And welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. Frank Tomaino is our guest. I probably should have introduced him at the beginning of the show. I know him so well, and he's on here so often that I forget that maybe not everybody knows who he is. He writes his history column for the OD. He's an active member down at the Oneida County History Center. He's author of History Just for the Fun of It, and it goes on and on. The milestone, the Mohawk Valley milestones, Frank, was there any, it must have been difficult, 21, it must have been difficult just getting 20, deciding.
Well, that was it. I wanted to try to get ones that were a little different. Like, I didn't want to write about the Battle of Oriskany. Everybody, I guess, interested in history knows about that. So I was trying to pick ones where there were different angles I could, come up with. And I knew, and I did get some emails and some letters. How come you didn't include this? Yeah. And I expected that. And but the ones I came up with were really they weren't that difficult to write.
Well, I'm looking at the list. Old Home Week in 1914. That's one that I don't think too many people would.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I picked it. What it was. A man named J. Soley Cole, who was with the Chamber of Commerce, he was a former reporter for the OD, at that time, Utica's population in 15 years had gained 30,000 people. The immigrants were just pouring in. And he got and at that time, Utica had 5 or 6 railroads, going in all directions. So he got the idea, why not use those railroads to invite former Uticans who had gone away to work or whatever, invite them back, like for a reunion, come back home, visit with friends and relatives, and see what Utica has done since they've been gone. And at that time, the Hotel Utica had just opened, Union Station had just opened, Mariah and Thomas Proctor had just given the city like 400 acres for their park system. So there was a lot of new things to see. And they asked the people as they came back to register at the old courthouse on Elizabeth Street. About 2,500 did from all over, but many did not. So there had to be 4,000 or 5,000 that were here for a week, shopping, and so it was great for the economy. And so and they come out with a beautiful booklet called Old Home Week, and it was just a big event.
If I recall correctly, J. Soley Cole also, he must have been a creative guy because he also got a trolley or some kind of a train and went around the country promoting Utica, right?
Right, yeah. I think you wrote more about that than I did, but yeah, right. I think I used a picture in my column one time. But they traveled, I think, as far as the Midwest.
Yeah, I think
maybe further, in promoting Utica. Yeah, so he was quite a guy. Yeah.
The other one that you picked, and I'm reminded of it when you talk about people coming home for a visit. You wrote about the Boilermaker, and people used the Boilermaker to come home.
I should be asking you questions about the Boilermaker. Yeah, I thought the Boilermaker. What an event! I mean, it started in 1978, and I'm going to say something now that you're not going to like.
Okay.
If I had to list 3 or 4 people responsible for making that a success, you're one of them. Because I remember you were writing for the OD, and you had a running column on Sunday.
Yeah.
In addition to your other, and running, wasn't as popular as today. And I remember. People used to come into the office sometimes and what kind of sneakers to buy or something.
Yeah.
It was a popular column, and it promoted the Boilermaker, which, look what it's turned into.
Well, that's nice of you to say, number one. Number two, I've often thought, I've tried to analyze why the Boilermaker's become what the Boilermaker has become. And it's a complex answer, but one of the parts of it is the news media has gotten behind it.
Oh, sure.
And the OD, by putting in the names, I remember there was an editor, and I forget who it was, there was a meeting prior to the Boilermaker, and he said, why do we need, I do remember who it was, why do we need to put all these names in there? We take those names out. We don't need those names.
No.
And I remember you, myself, and some others had to speak up to keep those names in, because I think those names, who's entering it, I watch people, they've got the paper up there, they're coming down, they're looking for names.
That's me. I've got 2 grandnieces and a grandnephew who run it. I'm always, I'll look to see if they're running, and then when the race is over, how did they do?
Yeah.
And I think when it started, it wasn't done electronically. Am I correct?
You're correct.
Can you imagine that? I mean, now, you know, electronically, it's still hard work.
And then, you know, you get, you know, WUTR, what they do, the other TV stations, not just WKTV, but Spectrum and all the, you know, WIBX and.
Well, I'll tell you know, I'm at the OD office quite often, and you can see right now there's, you know, you open the email and there's just about every day they're having committee meetings, you know, the number of stories they do, and all this has to be assigned, photographers, and as you say, the television stations, and I think radio does it too. It's just, and as you say, many are from former people from this area who have gone and come back, so it's similar. I never thought of that, similar to Old Home Week.
Yeah. I talked to a fellow who runs a store years ago, and he said it was such a delight for him because everybody was coming into his meat market to buy hot dogs, hamburgers. He said, I don't have a week like that any other time of the year.
After that article appeared, I got a nice note from Earl Reed saying, you know, thanking him, and said, because, you know, we owe a lot to him too for I don't know if we've ever had a story on this, how it affects the economy. Of course it does.
Yeah.
But it must be millions of dollars.
There was a story years ago. I think it was the United County tourism people did a study, but it was a long time ago, and saying what they have a formula for every dollar it means this. And, it was a big impact. Yeah.
Same with Old Home Week. After, you know, because I read the papers at that time, and then when it was over, you know, I wonder how much money did it bring in? Do you have anybody estimate? And I went about 2-3 weeks checking every paper, reading every story, and I never saw a story, but it had to bring in so much. You know.
We'll talk about some more of the milestones that Frank covered in his series for the Observer Dispatch. Short break, right back.